Well, man, don't call it a comeback. That's kind of what it is.
I'm back. I'm alive. And I know you haven't seen me or heard either of us since, in a long time, even though I posted that podcast that we recorded 3 days before I got rushed to the hospital. And this is kind of what this show is going to explain, everything that's happened between then and now.
It's been an absolutely wild several weeks. And I got hit up with so many different questions, different DMs and texts and you name it, of what happened to Dave? What can I do to help? Is he going to be okay? Just so on and so forth, right? And my response every time was, when he's comfortable, when he's doing better and he wants to tell the public what happened, he will. And we have the forum to be able to do that. And before we kind of jump into the scare, I want to bring it back to my birthday trip when we cut that show in person with Corey.
Right. That was like I want to say like around the 19th of July.
Right on my birthday, the 19th. Okay. So we're in there and you're moving like literally like you're a 110-year-old man. Like I've never seen somebody, and I'm just like, oh, well, he's sick. You know, it affects everybody different. And I'm thinking something has to be off. Like this isn't some flu. This isn't some, viral, virus, whatever. Something's off, but I was not sure. I kind of just defaulted to whatever you thought was going on. And at the time, it was some sort of flu. And then flash forward, several weeks later, you're laying on your couch and you're wearing your Apple Watch and it goes off.
Yeah, so exactly. And so when you guys came over, I didn't have any like flu. Like, I didn't feel like I was going to pass anything on. So I was like, yeah, I'm just tired. Like, I had a fever. I don't have it. You guys can come over. I just don't have a lot of energy. And I thought I had some, like, child sickness from, like, going to my niece's birthday party. Because this all happened 2 days after, like, July 17th. We had gone to Funtown. Funtown, Splash Town. It's full of germs. You kind of roll the dice. Yeah. Whatever happens, happens. I always bounce back from...
Yeah, if the kids don't get you sick, the food will, kind of thing.
Yeah. So that's one place where you got to stick to the sugar because it's like the safest thing to eat. Like if it's processed in an amusement park, I usually don't advocate for processed food, but in an amusement park, go for it. Do it.
You're golden.
Don't overload, but that will be safe. And I thought that's what it was. So I wasn't feeling good, had a fever. I had like a 2.5, 3 day fever. Like it was crazy. And I had never felt that kind of fever before.
Yeah.
And what happened is it went away. And I thought like, man, okay, like maybe that's the end of it. Like I'm not really sure what to do. I always get over a cold, like it's no big deal. And that's when you guys came over. We cut a show. I was moving slow. I like moved the equipment over to the table. I was just gassed, like you said, like everything I did. But nothing bad started happening until the next week after you left, when I got the most intense migraines in my life. And I thought, wow, something's really, really wrong with me. But I didn't think it was anything as bad as what happened to me. It was like somebody was shaking my head, like violently. Like, I don't know if you've ever had, I don't know if there's a wrestling move or been in a fight where like, but you couldn't, it was like I was sitting still, but everything was going like this, like back and forth really, really fast.
Probably only whenever I had gotten like a concussion, honestly.
Yeah. And so I was scared that I was like, well, am I having a seizure? Like I'm conscious, so I can't be having a seizure. And it would last for like, 15 minutes. I was just checking my Apple Watch right there. I'm like so like focused on it now, but it was just my bedtime alert.
And we'll get to that. Yeah.
And I like check it now all the time, which is cool because there's more stuff with the watch. But I had that, and I was like, man, that was bad. I was like immobilized. I was like, okay, maybe I need electrolytes. Maybe I'm dehydrated. Kept going through all the normal stuff that, you think like, I'm lacking something. I haven't moved around for a week. That's weird for me. But they kept coming and on and off. And then one night I was like laying in my bed, like, I'll just lay down. And I had the fan on. And this one lasted for like 30 seconds. And I'm like, this is not all right. So the next morning, it takes me forever to wake up. Now, this is, mind you, like almost 2 weeks of feeling terrible.
Man.
And I've got like stiff neck, stiff joints. Like it's like I'd been lifting a bunch of weights, like curls. Like my elbows didn't want to like bend out without pain. And I'm like, this is really weird. So then I try to stand up and get out of bed finally. And it feels like I'm going to pass out. Or it's like, when you stand up too fast and
you're kind of like, whoa.
And like things go a little bit dark just for a second because like the blood is rushing. Well, dude, it was like times 100. Like it went like completely dark, but I was conscious and I would have to grab something and I'd be like, man, what the heck? Still no energy. Did a shower. The next day, I was like, all right, Dad, this has been kind of going on. Like I couldn't walk to the end of the driveway without feeling like kind of faint.
Yeah.
Luckily, I never fainted. I said, all right, let's go to urgent care because like I can't, I like can't stand up. I can't like do normal stuff and I'm tired.
Yeah.
So to go back to the night before, 2 nights before we went to urgent care, I decided, let me put my Apple Watch on because it's always giving me info and like I know it checks heart rate and if I'm moving slow, my heart must be going slow too. I was just like guessing at this point. So I'm watching a movie or something, I fall asleep for like 10 minutes and it will buzz. It's like, it'll buzz your wrist and it does it enough to wake you up or you can have the sound on. And it was like, your heart rate is dangerously low. It's under 50. I was like, oh man, what is it? And I'm like, it's 38. I'm like, 38? Like, how is that really bad? I don't know. I know it's low, but I don't know how bad it is. And then I'm reading online, trying to figure out how to keep my heart rate up. And they're like, oh, if you like pump your arms and like do these deep breathing exercises. So the next day I'm just doing that when I'm walking around to try to like keep the blood essentially pumping into my head and like my extremities. And cause I'm like, okay, like I'm not feeling good still. In my head, I think I'm still just not feeling good. And this is a part of it and it'll go away.
It's crazy.
And so I go through the day doing that and I haven't had any like really bad incidents other than like, oh man, gotta sit down, man, gotta like lay down. And then the morning of going to urgent care, still not feeling good. I make breakfast. Well, my dad made breakfast. I'm standing up eating it and I'm like, Dad, I gotta go to urgent care. Like my watch keeps like going off every like hour. And like my heart rate is like so slow. Like at one point it dropped to like 29 for a few minutes.
My goodness.
And I was like, okay, that's alarming to me. Now, here's the weirdest part. Once we try to go to urgent care in Westbrook, they're only seeing people virtually. I'm like, but you guys are in here. I'm like talking to you in person.
Oh my goodness.
I'm like, they're like, oh, here's a map. So they did give me a map of all these other ones and there's a bunch. So we're like, let's go to Gorham. Let's not go into the city because I don't know, maybe it's busy. I don't want to be waiting. Yeah. Gorham is like wide open. It's like me and one other person.
Sweet.
So I go into Gorham, I fill out my paperwork, and like they see me in 10 minutes. I'm like, hey, can you use the bathroom? Use the bathroom. I've had no incidents. I don't feel dizzy. And I'm like, okay, well, hey, I'm here, but maybe I'm already feeling better and they'll just tell me that it's passed or it's passing. And then I go in, they check my pulse, they do all this stuff. And then, she's like, all right, your heart rate's really slow. I want to check something. So they do an EKG and they hook up these electrical, like basically like pieces of tape with wires attached to them. And they look at your pulse going across the screen. And she's like kind of alarmed, but not freaked out. And she's like, I'm in Maine. Have you been bitten by a tick? This is a typical question that you're asked in Maine because we have lots of ticks and they can cause lots of problems. And she's like, I said, yeah, like a month ago. I was like, that was so long ago. I pulled it off. Like, there's no way. That was so long ago.
Yeah, and you never even thought about it again.
Nope. Yep. Pulled it like I always do. I've had over 100 tick bites for sure. I mean,
Right.
you know, growing up in Maine, we'd run through the woods, tall grass, whatever. You know, you pull them off. It's like no
Hold
big
still,
deal.
hold still. Let me get that. Let me, and then you flick the bick
Yeah.
and you burn them.
Exactly. That's what I did, and I've never ever tested or been tested for anything with a tick bite. Never.
No.
And she was like, "Well, here's the thing." She's like, "Without the full tests and the blood work, which is going to take some time," she's like, "I think you have Lyme carditis." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" So like, props to this doctor who before doing anything just had a really good intuition. She's like, "Well, basically like you have Lyme, but it's a very specific type of Lyme, and the tick bite has like infected your heart. So like if that's the case, like in your heart, it's like a muscle and electrical system. So the electrical system is what like makes your heart move, and the heart pumps the blood to your body. So of course we all know the heart's a real important thing to like be pumping
Right.
correctly. So the only details I got was like that. And she's like, and you can't leave by any means other than an ambulance.
Right.
I'm like, what an ambulance? I'm like, I'm like not processing that this is like that serious. I'm just like, yeah, I'm tired, but can I just get a ride? And so they come in.
So real quick, before
Yeah.
you go further, and I don't want to cut you off,
No, you're
but
good.
I've never heard of Lyme carditis before. Did I say that right?
Yeah, no, and
Yeah.
I had never heard of it either.
I've always heard of Lyme disease. I know it's a bad thing. I don't necessarily even know what it does. So how does Lyme disease, is that just like, is Lyme carditis a variant of Lyme? Like, is it all under the same deal or?
Yeah, it's a form. It's like a acute, I guess would be the word. And
Okay.
by the way, neither of us are doctors. I'm relaying what they told me. So go do your homework. And
Yeah.
if I make a misstep, like, just tell me about it. But yeah, so it's acute. It's very specific. There's one form where you can't eat raw red meat for life. And I'm like, dang, I hope I don't have that
No.
one. Luckily, I didn't have that one.
Yeah.
There's another, I mean, some of it is really bad and it stays with you forever. So I'm like, silver lining now is I'm really fortunate that it's not a for life thing. I'm going to like fully recover. But at this
Yeah.
point in the story, I don't know any of this.
Yeah.
So I get
All
in the
right, so-
ambulance and the guys are super nice. And I'm like, I'm not like a difficult patient. I'm like, yeah, I can roll onto like the stretcher. They bring it in, they roll out. I'm just looking up. They like stick an IV in my arm so I can have fluid. And the electrolytes actually, I think, helped me. I was like, damn, this IV thing is like nice. Like I needed this.
Yeah.
I thought at one point I was like, oh, maybe I just need to go to those IV places and get a bag and I'll be good. And that's the solution.
We even talked about that. I was like, maybe you should do one of those IV with all the nice vitamins and electrolytes. Like, dude, I was ready to run like a 5K after that.
Yeah, it could. I was like, okay, that's like it. So I get in there and I'm like, guys, we're not even gonna turn the lights on because I'm not like in critical condition. They have me hooked up. They can monitor my chest and my heart, and I'm also not passing out. And I'm like, I'm sharp. I'm like talking to them, and they joked at one point. They're like, yeah, dude, you got a low heart rate. Like we've only heard, and they don't. It was a rumor. I don't know if this is true. That Lance Armstrong, when he was cycling and like doping and whatever, had a resting 39 beats per minute.
Wow.
I'm like, what? And again, resting, I'm not talking about when you're like working out, but like that's like you are so calm. So, for
Yeah.
me, it's not weird to be in the low 60s. I'm usually in the low 60s because I'm just like that.
Yeah.
So they were like, yeah, no, I was like, dude, I'm an athlete. I'm not that kind of athlete.
No.
I'm not that good. I'm not Olympic status. So it's like an 8-mile ride. And of course, in my head, I'm like, this is about to be the most expensive ride of my life.
100%, bro.
So I'm not thinking about my heart is slowly going to stop because that's what was happening. It's like this thing was about to slowly stop my heart from beating altogether, which means the blood can't pump and like you die.
Oh my goodness.
So untreated, it can be fatal. I think it is fatal if it's untreated.
And it was definitely headed that way if it
Yeah.
hadn't been for your friggin' watch.
Dude, I know. Shout out to Apple. I still have the 5, I think, but it was like critical and like just letting me know the basics of you need to seek medical attention.
That is so crazy, dude.
I know it's a full on like testimonial. But obviously like they take your watch off. My dad had to take my chain off, like everything on your body. So, we're not speeding, but we're driving fast and like
we're moving along here,
skipping a couple lights. Like they're like, yeah, okay, nobody's coming, let's go. Pull into Main Med. Mind you, I've only been inside Main Med when I was born, and I don't think I've ever had anyone that I've known in that hospital to like visit that I can remember. Maybe I was little. So I'm downstairs going into the cardiac ICU care unit. I don't know if it's the ICU, but it's like a critical care unit.
That whole thing has to be like kind of like more than kind of scary.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, we're really in here, and it's like chaos around me, but luckily it's Saturday afternoon, and I guess for whatever reason there wasn't a ton of people and a ton of stuff going on. So you go through the doors. It's like a different entrance because it's like, you're rushed in, emergency, the backup, and smooth ride. Shout out to the EMTs, like no bad bumps, like that thing is pretty clutch. It like goes up and down and it rolls. And I slide in, I'm all on my back this whole time, just looking up. And my dad gets there pretty quick because he was with me in urgent care. He follows. And then they start like hooking up more stuff to my chest. They put on these two big, like, I don't know, plastic rubber pads. And I find out that is like the backup, like, clear. Like that's in case like I go all the way down and flatline, they can just shock that.
Yeah, like when you're in the show and it's like, all right, charge to 4. Okay, cleared.
Yeah. So in this case, it's hooked up, so they can just flip a switch and it's like charged and ready. And but I'm pretty calm. Again, I'm just in my head, I'm like just accepting like I can't do anything, so let me just be helpful and not like mess up what they're trying to do to me. They put an IV in my arm. Well, I think they already have one. They put another one in my right arm. And then shout out to Claudette, who is like my second mom, my neighbor, and like one of the head nurses at Main Med. Just walks in front of me because she works downstairs.
So she didn't know that you were coming in ahead of time, just happened to cross paths.
Yeah. Like known her since I was a small child. And I had been texting her with my symptoms. I'm like, what do you think I should do? But she got super busy the night before, and we kind of just lost touch. She was going to come over, but it was late. And she's like, oh, my God, like what's going on? And so I know that she definitely had an influence on my stay being, like, really super great there. And, she's good at bossing people around, so she started doing that. And just be like, what's the deal here? Da-da-da. Like, take care. Like, this is my boy. Like, take care of him, all this stuff. Cardiology doc comes in. They ask me a few questions, and they're like, all right, here's what we got to do. We have to get you to the cath lab. We think it's probably Lyme carditis. And what they're going to do. And the cath lab is where, I guess that's short for catheter. I don't know. I might be wrong. They have to cut a tiny incision in my neck. And there's like a little bump somewhere. And they're like, we got to do that. And then we're going to you have to have a pacemaker, temporary pacemaker, put in along with like an IV pump. That I guess what the IV does is keeps your blood from clotting because they need to make sure it like keeps flowing. But yeah,
there's a lot of different variables here.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I'm just like, I don't understand it, but let's go. Let's do whatever we got to do. Let's just do it now. And so like, they're like, all right, we're going to do that. My dad's there. So I give him all my valuables and I'm like, should I keep my ID? And I'm like, well, I'm already here. I don't really need my ID. Like I got a wristband on, like I got in the club, so I'm good.
Yeah, me too, baby. Don't talk about.
And so then I'm still on the stretcher, or I guess like now it's like a hospital bed thing, and they roll it. We go upstairs, and this is the funniest part of the whole thing.
There's no humor in any of this.
My mind just goes there. This while it's all happening, and so they prep you, and like I don't have any hair here, so that's good. Roll in the cath lab, and they're like, "Hey," the guy's like, "Hey, I'm the doc," and whatever. And there's like it's almost like the dentist, but like a big cloth or like a napkin under your neck, so I can't see like what's happening, but he can see, which is good. Like I don't want to watch.
You don't want to see that, dude. Hell no.
And he's like, all right, here, he's chatting me up. What do you do? This and that. As they're prepping, there's like 8 other people in there, a ton of people. So I'm like, cool. Like they got the whole team. And he's like, I'm going to make this incision. He's explaining what's going to happen. And he's like, you're going to feel a little pinch, but we're going to give you a little bit of local anesthetic. And so then does the incision. I'm like, yeah, man, go for it. I'm awake. And it goes in and I don't feel really a thing. The whole time, the most pain I had was like a sore neck, because once it was in, and you probably saw like my Instagram or when we FaceTimed, like it was this like clear hose, and inside were the 2 wires, the one wire going in the IV, and then and then like there was a big plastic clear bandage over it to keep it sealed, because it's important to keep it clean, because it's technically an open wound. You don't want any bacteria to get in there.
No.
And so that's in there. And the only pain I really had was a sore neck, because when you get it, he's like, I get back up to my room. Everything goes smooth. No pain. Great. I get into a room. I have like a roommate, but I'm not talking to anybody yet. And he's like, you got to lay down for an hour. I was like, okay. So like I can't move. And then as soon as
you're just kind of stuck.
Yeah. And then like you favor it. It's like you don't want to do anything to mess it up, because that's what they said. They're like, just try not to move around too much first day or 2. I just have a sore neck. Like, seriously, that was the most pain I was in. Or I'd have a sore back because, hospital bed.
Right.
So get up to the hospital bed and like, I don't really know what's going on, other than like, now I'm on a pacemaker, which is good. Pacemaker is basically a backup. So it's like a battery that if I go too low, it will kick in and beat my heart for me. It will beat the heart. It will.
Okay, so real quick, one of the things that I mean, we understand how important the heart is. It's what gives you life, right?
Right.
I always thought the heart was 2 beats, but it was coming from the same place. I never knew there was like an upstairs and a downstairs. Do you care to kind of like...
Yeah. So when I explained that to you, basically, here's what had happened. The Lyme carditis infected my heart, and it messed with the electrical pulse. And what happens is upstairs, I think there's 4 chambers, but the way they explained it was like there's 2 different areas. Okay, again, do your homework. Like, I'm not going to get this perfect. Upstairs, like if you stand up, we're standing up, we're walking, we're going to go faster. It sends that signal downstairs so the bottom can do the same. So like you said, it goes boop, 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 boop. And mine was going like boop.
Left, right.
And then forever. And then the other one was just, it wasn't even getting the signal at all. So it's called a full heart block is what I was in. Like first degree full heart block. When you say it like that, you're like, geez, man. Like Lyme carditis sounds way better.
Yeah.
And so that's what was happening, and it just wasn't. The signal was cut off because of the infection, and the bottom was just like, all right, well, that's why it was going so slow, because the bottom's like, well, we're gonna beat, but we don't know what to do, so we're just gonna go at our own pace,
just going at its own speed. Yeah.
And that's why when I stood up, the top was doing this, the bottom was doing that, and the blood couldn't pump properly, and that's why I had to like sit down or stand up or whatever. And so, okay, IV's in, pacemakers in. They literally have a knob, dude. It's like a device, like this rectangle device. It's got a knob and like a couple buttons, and you can set the BPM, like you're a DJ. Like you can set the BPM. They're like, we're gonna put you at 80 to start. I'm like, well, yeah, because I was at 38, and that was not fun.
Man,
so I'm laying there, and I'm like, yo, my heart is going 80, and I'm laying down. This is strange to me.
That must have felt so bizarre.
Like, I was like, I felt like you're up walking. And what people with really fast heart rates, or, they have heart problems where it starts going too fast, is it's exhausting. Like, if somebody has like 160, that's like when you're working out or running. That's like intense. And if that's happening for like an hour or 2, it feels like you've run a marathon. You haven't gone anywhere.
Man.
So it's doing so much work. So on the fly, I'm just learning everything about my heart and what's happening.
Right, it's a crash course right here.
Yeah, the nurses give me information, the docs. I mean, and everybody's kind of dripping me info. And that's what I really liked, especially because Claudette was there and she would check on me and she would like kind of give me a heads up. So she gave me the heads up. Hey, here's what's about to happen when I was downstairs. They're going to do this incision. It's not a huge deal. They got to put a pacemaker in. When they said pacemaker, I was like kind of nervous. But
so hold on. How far does this go down?
So
or is
from
it
the
just
neck
here?
all the way to into the heart?
So they had to snake something like a plumber would from your neck.
Yep.
And just carefully snake it down. What the frig, man?
Luckily, that's a huge vein, like a huge one. I don't know if it's the jugular. You go to the jugular, man. Like, but
it's not the main vein either.
No, it's not. Okay, so I forgot to tell you the funny part. I'm in the cath lab, right, getting this procedure, and they're like, "We got to prep you." I'm like, "Well, I'm ready. Like, let's go." It's like, "No, we have to shave your groin." I was like, "All right." I mean, I didn't remember to do that before I came in. I didn't know that was part of the deal. But it was like uneven because sometimes I think if they have if they have an issue with like the neck, they have to go through the groin. And thank God they didn't have to snake that through the groin, man. That would have been like a dull pain, like it just getting kicked in the nuts over and over. But it was funny because like the nurse is like, all right, it like shaves one side, shaves the other. And
is this
not the whole thing.
Hold on. Is this like Manscaped? Like
yeah, bro.
Or is
it's
this like
no, it's Manscaped. No, it's Manscaped.
Okay.
And I'm like, there's like the roughest landing strip you could ever like shave onto somebody. No. So I'm like, the next day in the bathroom, because I have to call a nurse to like let them know I'm getting up. I like look down and I'm like, man, like, yo, this is gonna grow back so weird. I just got to shave it all to start over.
Did you fix it?
Yeah, I fixed it.
Okay.
So the first couple nights. So in total, I was at the hospital for 2 weeks. So I'm just going back to August 5th. I got in there, admitted. I got one of those jugs, and I was just peeing in that jug. Like, that was my jam. Didn't have to get up. You just, like, kind of roll over a little bit to the side. It's a Gatorade bottle in the car. It's the same idea.
Like on a road trip.
Yeah, which, I'm like, well, I don't have to get up. I couldn't really get up. I was too out of it.
Yeah.
So I'm like learning stuff, finding out what's happening. Am I going to need a pacemaker for life? Because that was on the table for a while that first week. They're like, if this doesn't improve how we want, you might need one forever. And they last 25 years. So that's a long time.
Well, then you're thinking like, okay, worst case, then I'll deal with that because I'm alive.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I was accepting. The more info I got, I was like, okay, well, I accept that. Like, that's fine. I get to live. It's a backup. It's a backup also. It's not like constantly working. Whereas in, some older folks, like it's constantly working. They need it. So I was like, okay, well, at least I'll get a sick parking spot. I can get like all these handicap advantages. I'm like, I might as well take advantage. Like I'm going to be getting out of a car. Like, what? That dude, he looks like he's in his 20s. He doesn't need that spot. I'm like, I got it. I got the thing in my window. But luckily we avoided having that. The food is surprisingly kind of good if you order the right stuff. And the day one, I didn't know what to order. So I'm like picking stuff out. But, it's 3 meals a day, man. Like they bring you ginger ale. I got used to just
one
service.
Over here, bro.
Yeah, bro. I got used to like the nurses would freshen your water. They bring you all the chocolate pudding you want. I got hooked on ginger ale. I was eating like pizza. The weird thing was I was about 30 years younger than everybody on the cardiac floor because they're having different heart issues than me. And so I don't have diet restrictions. So I'm eating everything, bro. Like ice cream, like burgers, chicken, all of it.
Every other day we would talk, and it's so-and-so came to visit and brought me Amados. So-and-so came to visit and brought me Amados. I'm trying to put this weight that I'm like, because you couldn't move for...
Lost 10 pounds before I got in there. So then I thought, okay, well, I'm not moving. If I'm eating and not moving, I should be able to gain the weight back. I only got 30 pounds back.
Man.
But the eating was good. My first roommate was hilarious. I had 6 roommates. It's a 2-room. We're on the top floor of Main Med. You can see Hadlock Field from the window. It's a sick view. And they'd have some games. I caught the fireworks one night. I'm like, you know what? Could be worse. This is kind of sick. I can stand up for like 2 minutes at a time. I had to sit down.
So wait a minute, you were there so long, you had 6 different roommates.
Yep.
Jeez.
Average age was like 60 plus. Like the youngest guy was like 60. The first guy in there, hilarious dude. And obviously I'll leave out names and everything. But he was just like, oh, you're such a good roommate. He had like this old Maine accent. He had a ton of stuff going on with him, which was tough. And like he, you know, was kind of like in a loop of like not remembering what the nurses would say and like kind of blaming people for stuff that didn't happen. Cause I'm laying there listening to all the conversations. You can't help it.
You can't not. Yeah.
Like it's a curtain. Like I know, dude, I know your life story now.
Yeah.
And then, you know, he left and I talked to another nurse. Oh, he's been in here a bunch of times this year already. He'll be back. Yeah. And I'm like, dang. So they know. And it's like so tough because I thought the nurses treated me so good and they treated him good too, but they have to do like all their medical stuff, which is hard enough. And then they have to be like psychologists and like they have to deal with people who are just being difficult. Like they don't, like some people don't want to get blood taken and they come at 4 a.m. So I don't blame you. I'm like, yo, just 7 o'clock. Can we do 7? Like, do you need it right now?
Yeah.
It was rough, man. I'm waking you up. So, and you know, it's your right. Like you can refuse that stuff. It's totally your right, but it's not going to help you get better. So
they're there trying to rescue you. Like it would be foolish.
Yeah. So they're taking your blood. They're taking your vitals every couple hours. So they're putting the wrap on your arm. They're putting the thing on the ET thing on your finger to get your pulse. They're doing temperature. That's fine. But like taking the blood, it's like they got to poke your arm each time. Each time. They can't just leave it in. Like they got to do a fresh one. So they're like doing the tourniquet. And I'm like, all right, let's find a vein. Let's go. But they had this cool device that maps your arm. And it does it's not an x-ray, but what it does is I think it's like a heat map. And you can see under your skin what veins are like the most prominent.
What?
It was incredible. And this one girl's like, oh yeah, like do you want to use it? And the other girl's like, oh yeah, that's great. That makes it much easier.
Dude, that's really cool, but that like creeps me out. I hate that. I hate needles and stuff, man.
I do too, man. But I got used to them. I was like, all right, just go.
Right.
Then the other thing was every day at 4 o'clock, I got to look forward to getting my antibiotics in the arm, just like the big, like, you know, liquid. It was just like cold, which is good. That means, you know, it's like
probably felt good. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt good after. But like my left, this was like super tender right here. So I was like, can you guys just go in the other arm? Like that's just better. So, had IVs, and then all this time, like the doctor would come in each morning, give you an update. He'd be like, yeah, like we need you to improve. You can do this. You can't do that. Eventually, at the end of the first week, the doctor's like, this one guy I'd never seen, super chill guy. He's like, oh yeah, pacemakers and this stuff's my specialty. I'm like, sick. And he had like a Duke lanyard. I'm like, oh, went to Duke, my man.
Nice.
I'm like, okay. I'm like, so he's in there. And he's looking at me and he's checking my rate, and they lowered me from 80 to 50, then to 35. So 35 was like the basement, right? And so at 35, they're like, okay, we're seeing your progress is good enough that you're not there. But what was happening the whole time, since I'm always hooked up to an EKG machine, an ECG machine. I think that's it. So I have this little Game Boy device that shows my heart rate, and the nurses in the control unit outside can see everything going on. If I have a dip, if I go high, low, whatever. So a few times at night they would rush in and like wake me up. They're like, hey, you just dipped low. I'm like, okay. They're like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I feel fine. But you know, if it goes for a long enough period of time, they want to like check and make sure, you know, everything's pumping. And so the doc that came in was like, oh, this is good, you're improving. I think we can take the pacemaker out today. I was like, oh, nice. And this is Saturday.
A weekend.
A weekend. It's Saturday. I'm like, oh man, maybe that means Monday I can get out. That was kind of foolish of me to think, but I had hope at the time. So he comes back.
Wishful thinking.
Comes back an hour later, and he's like, all right, so you're gonna feel a pinch again, because he had to take like the stitch or the staple out. And he's like, and that's like it. And then take a deep breath. And he pulled the thing out. And then he showed me, and I was like, he's like, yeah, it's just this little node, skinnier than this. cable. And it's a little
Really?
metal node at the end. He's like, yeah, that's what was sending the pulse
And it's just zzz,
from the
zzz,
machine. Yep. And I was like, that's incredible. So, you know, he has to hold his hand there for a while just to get the blood to like clot and whatever. Puts a bandage on it. He's like, yep, just, 2 hours, just like stay put. And after that, you can start moving around. I was like, just relieved to have that in the IV out, because that whole week I had one of those, carts on the wheels that I'd have to take with me everywhere I went.
Right.
But with the pacemaker, you're like, oh, I can walk. This is kind of sweet.
Yeah.
I had to go with a nurse. Like, I have to ask a nurse to go for a walk. It's not bad. They're all good looking. So I'm like, this is cool. I have like a date down the hallway. Hey, want to take a walk?
Yeah. Hey, come on now, honey. What do you say?
So just not being attached was great.
Yeah.
There's a whole other part of this is you can't take a proper shower.
Yeah.
Because you have electrical things hooked up to you. They would clean you basically every day on your chest. They had these special wipes that would, they'd get around everything plugged in, and then they'd wash your back. And then you had to go in the bathroom with like cloths and soap in like a basin. And you would just like wash your legs and, downstairs and all that. Man, I just wanted to shower. But luckily my hair, it like stayed perfect somehow for like 2 weeks because the grease just like held it. And I was like, you know what? The hair plays still. This
on
is
point, bro.
This is all right. I just gotta like not smell. And then I was like, yo, do you guys have like any stronger deodorant? Because what y'all gave me is like not enough.
Yeah, it's probably like some natural kind of,
Yeah, and it was nice. It was but I was like, yo, I got visitors. Like, I can't just be smelly. They won't stay for a long time.
Yeah, come on.
And like I just love everybody that came in and everybody who reached out. It shouldn't take something like this to know that, and I kind of already did, but man, people really care. Like, it's just nice to know that even people I haven't talked to in years were FaceTiming me like, bro, what's going on? Are you okay? Like DMs. It was, that was nice. And like, I definitely made an effort to like talk to everybody. That was helpful. Like, seriously, the messages while I was in there, because it was so long and you start to get bored.
Yeah.
You can only play so many video games. You can only watch all the Harry Potter movies so many times.
Yeah.
Like, I did that again.
Yeah, dude, it was rough, especially that first week because you weren't out of the woods yet. And I'm so far away that there's really nothing I can do. I even looked at flights to try to get out there, and it was there's no way I would have been like drowning for months. Like, it was stupid money. But it feels good that some people that we know like showed up and, really came through and were really supportive. And like, we were FaceTiming each day, even when you were like within the worst of it.
Oh yeah.
And
I was like,
dude,
I know what's going on right now, but like my voice was pretty weak. Like, I didn't have a lot of projection. I just didn't have like it's not like your soul is gone, but it's like your charisma is like not there.
Right. I was just trying to do everything I could to make you laugh. And sometimes I did, but I was like, I don't want your pacemaker to like fall out or anything or whatever.
It was painful. It was painful to swallow food. That was like the first week. I was like, I have to eat, but man, every time I swallow, it is painful because that muscle is just like,
Man.
So
tell me, your first week, how many days total in there before you're like, okay, I'm out of the woods? Now it's like recovery time.
Okay, well, once the pacemaker was out, like, they were talking positive the whole time. I was confident eventually I was going to get to a good place, even though it was uncertain. Once the pacemaker was out, I was like, cool, I think I'll get out in a couple days now, because like now that's out. And the doc was like, yeah, here's the next thing we need to accomplish is, how you were talking about those 2 beats? Well, my gap was so long that they were like, it's dangerous for us to let you go. You have to get it under 300 milliseconds. And dude, it took me a whole week to get to like 290. It was like incremental. It'd be like 50 milliseconds slower or faster, 100 faster. And then like the last 2 days, it went from like 500 to 300. And they're like, you're like on the edge, like not yet.
Man.
So like maybe Thursday, maybe Friday. And then Friday, they were like, okay, things are going really great. And I had like 5 or 6 different cardiologists come in because, they're all rotating. And even the nurses are like kind of fascinated with what's happening because they haven't seen this in person. And they're like, we've just never seen this recovery before. We know that it happens, but just personally, we've never experienced it.
To witness it with their own, like right up and like close and personal. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you can learn about it in class, but until you see it with a person, you don't know. And lucky for me, my lifestyle has been very healthy. And honestly, it bought me probably like 2 days worth of time to get to the hospital. Because I don't think if I was not healthy, I think I probably would have had like some more dizzy spells. I would have passed out. Like, could have gone bad. So being healthy, like, man, that's helped the recovery time. So yeah, once the pacemaker was out, I thought it was going to be days. And they're like, well, probably at least another week. It was probably another 8 days. And once they stopped giving me my medication through the IV, I got medication through like a pill form. They're like, okay, you're close to under 300. Now we're going to switch you over to pill. I was like, that's great. Because since I've been out, I had 2 weeks of the doxycycline to complete the treatment and get rid of any like infection.
So that's like a big hurdle to overcome, to go from the IV to, okay, now you can just take this with your drink.
Exactly, because the IV is just direct to the bloodstream. So there's no like waiting. And so it's more effective. It works faster. So I was like, cool. I'm like 48 hours. I think I can get out of here. And then Saturday, they're like, you're under the number. Like, we're going to let you go. Man, I was like so pumped. It'd been 2 weeks long, 6 roommates later, a lot of great friends and family coming to visit. Honestly, it was in like a routine of being there. I was just like done. And my dad was like, yeah, you're very patient. I was like, well, I had to get better. I just kind of, again, accepted like my fate. I can only do so much. And I was just... the whole time, probably day 3, I realized you almost died. You should really be grateful and like start thinking about everything a little bit differently. And a friend of mine said, he was like, I know you, and I know something like this is going to change your life for the better because I just know how you react to things. And that was like nice to hear in the midst of like not knowing what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so I've always had an attitude of gratitude, especially recently, but it's just quadrupled. Now I'm just like every little thing in my life, I'm just like appreciating. And it's, it's like Ferris Bueller. If you don't stop to look around, you might miss it. And it's so cliche, but dude, I think it would be hard.
Kicked out. Yeah, you kicked out at 2.9.
To bring it back to wrestling, man, down but not out.
1, 2, he got no.
2 point, as many 9s as you can put in there without, putting it over to the 3.
Man.
And so once I realized I had a near-death experience, I looked at it differently and was just grateful that I have like literally at 37 a second chance, and I'm not going to be hampered. I'm going to be better and continue to get healthier. It's not like, oh, well, now like things are different. You have to like, you can't work out. You can't do this. You can't do that. No restrictions, no diet restrictions, just going to continue to be healthy and healthier because that's what saved my life, the watch, being healthy. And just grateful again, everybody who was just so, just kind, like just taking a few moments, like that means a lot to me. Everybody has busy lives and their own problems and their own stuff. And so to get a text, even just an emoji, like that still means a lot. Like everybody, communicates in their own way. And I see it all as equally important,
Yeah. Man, I remember you telling me, like, bro, I'm getting out of here. I'm breaking out. And
Yeah.
I remember being so excited. I told the first person I saw, which was my PD here in Denver. I was like, Dave just got out of the hospital.
Yes.
And he's like, what? Dave's in the hospital?
Oh man, that's so funny.
Yeah, like you're so pumped. You got to tell like the first person you see, you know? And he was like, wait, what? You know?
That was me when I took my first walk by myself down the hallway. All the nurses were like, look at you. And I was shuffling like an old man. I was like, yep, that's right. No chaperone.
Nope.
Went to the window that you could see
wall?
South Portland. Yeah, window to the wall. And I walked back with no incident, no dizziness. And I was like, that was just such a huge moment. And I remember our buddy Joe came in a second time. And I was like, yeah, let's go for a walk. And I think it surprised him. I'm not sure. I didn't quite catch his glance. But he was like, oh. I was like, yeah, dude, I can move around. Not very fast, but I can move. And we walked down the hallway, and there's another view of Hadlock, and just like sat there and chatted in kind of like I don't know, it's like some weird like waiting area, something.
I remember calling Joe because I'm like, hey, like you're in town, you should go visit. He's like, oh, I'm right here with Dave.
The timing
Do you
was
want to
so
say
weird.
what's up? And I was
Yeah.
like, that was so bizarre, dude.
Dude, it was just like everybody was on the same wave. It was cool.
Yeah.
So it's that was like a big milestone. But dude, you are grateful that you can walk when like it's been taken away from you, and you're like, I'm glad everything works. It's just slow. I've been in the gym. Now I've been out. I've been in the gym. I waited probably a week to start.
So real quick, there's certain precautions that you have to take just to even go outside, right? And the reason I ask is because, you know, we want to give your firsthand experience of this Lyme carditis, and you know, not the necessarily like lingering effects, but
Right.
you've turned the corner, you're recovering super well, but there's still like different precautions and things you have to do.
Exactly. So part of taking the doxycycline is it makes you really sensitive to the sun. And I was like, okay, well, I'm white. I'm already pretty sensitive to the sun. What do you mean more sensitive? Like,
Oh man.
and the guy's like, you have to avoid direct sunlight. I'm like, so I'm going to be a vampire? Is that what you're saying? So for 2
Good
weeks,
thing I'm an editor.
dude, I know. Keep it white, keep it tight.
Hey.
Can't trust a tanned editor.
No.
So I'm like, it's warm out, and I'm like having to wear layers and like hoodies, and I'm like sweating. I have a bucket hat, sunscreen if I go outside.
Just incognito, bro.
I'm like the invisible man. I'm just like, everything's covered with something. So that's been annoying, but you know, I've been doing eBay, I've been inside most of the time, just doing that. So now I'm going to the gym, and I've been for like the last 5 days. And here's the coolest part of this is our buddy Dr. Shane. Like what a guy. Flew all the way from Los Angeles to visit me on the East Coast in Maine. He's like, yeah, man, like he was so kind about it. He's like, you know, I was going to come visit anyway, but clearly this like shook him into action. This
Expedited the process, yeah.
Right. And he's fantastic chiropractor, one of my best friends. And he's like, yeah, I wanted to like help you on your healing journey. So he came, he like adjusted me every day. We did like a mini food tour of Portland because, you know, there's just too many restaurants to pick from. Did lobster rolls, Portland Headlight, showed him around. And he was like, dude, you guys got a gem of a city here. I didn't know what to expect. I thought it was going to be sleepy. But, you know, you go to the Old Port, and you get a little taste of like New York, Boston.
Yeah.
So I love taking people around just like you do. You become a tour guide just because like we love showing off our hometown.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he was here, and like, you know, Shane, he's just like magic, dude, magic hands. He just knows what to do. Tapped into my circulatory system, gave me the right adjustments, used the tool on my back, and man, I just slept well. So during my recovery, just shout out to Dr. Shane for just literally being there.
That man has such like a genuine, kind, soul that he could like say, JR, the sky is orange today, and I would probably believe him.
You know what, Dr. Shane? I see it.
You know what? From the right angle, I think you're right, Dr. Shane, and I just go with it because he's just so nice. He's a great guy.
He just is. He is, and he transformed his body when we knew him as Big
boss
Cat,
man.
the boss man. He lost 100 pounds since then.
Golly,
because he discovered
man.
chiropractics. It worked on him, and he said, well, if this works so well for me, it must work for other people. That's when he bought in. So he was like his own test case. And
wow.
it's like, it's one of those things, like if you do it, like especially in his way where it's holistic, full body, chiropractic is not about just fixing your neck and back pain. It's about fixing anything in your body. For me, circulatory system. It could be your endocrine system, like your ability, like your bladder. Like it could be muscles. Like there's tons of things that it honestly like corrects.
Everything in your body is connected, not just your bones. Everything, man, absolutely.
So that's what he taps into. I would highly recommend him. If you're in the Los Angeles area, go to Dr. Shane. He is just. It's a good vibe, and he's good at what he does. So he was here. But yeah, I've been in the gym, and it's funny to watch. It's a struggle. I do one set of something, and I'm just like breathing. But the good thing is my heart is responding. It's going up and down properly. I start off with like 10 minutes on the treadmill. Everything I've been doing is lightweight. And Shane was like, yeah, just do the same thing for 2 weeks. Do it for 2 weeks, and
don't rush nothing. There's no point.
After that, you can up it, but just like, let's see how your body does with the same reps and the same stuff every day. And today, I probably felt the best and had the least amount of like exhaust. And it's all cardio. Like if you haven't run or worked out, your cardio is low. So I'm happy that that's the thing I can fix. I know how to fix that. Mm-hmm. And the heart is doing what it's supposed to do. I have a follow-up next week with cardiology when I'm done with my meds, and then I'm thinking I'll be like, nothing ever happened, and this is just some story that I can tell my grandchildren.
Yeah, man.
From near death to nothing happened.
Yeah, that's just so crazy, man. And I can hear it not only in the strength of your voice, but in the character and the charisma and the inflection, and you just sound very youthful and happy. And just talking to you several weeks back, like it was some pretty dark times. Like I didn't know what to expect. So now for you to had like turned that corner and to hear like my best friend come back, like you're back. You might not be 100%. Right. But in 80% Dave, I take over 100% anybody else,
My man. Well, yeah, and of like all people, like you can tell right away, even being far away, like talking, even if it's just on the phone, like I know you can tell. You don't even need to see me.
No.
I mean, I kind of thought about that, like I was like, oh yeah, other people, I can tell that I'm not me, so they're definitely going to be able to tell that I'm just like, I'm not there. It was, I don't know. I guess it was scary for a minute, but
here we are.
I just never, me, I never go all the way up or down. So I'm like, if I just stay in the middle here, I can keep my thoughts about me. And I think that's what helped me get through all those days, was just like, it still could be worse.
Right. Yeah. So moral of this is always check for ticks, right?
Yes.
Especially if you live in Maine, because oh my God, they're just everywhere, and they're the most disgusting little. I'm getting like heebie-jeebies talking about them.
And they're tiny. So tall grass. What did me in was playing a round of golf and just going in the woods too much to get my ball. So if you're not good at golf, just let it be. It's just a ball. Just let it go.
Yeah, let it go.
Just grab another one.
So they say that, Lyme is only common in about 20% of ticks. So you could get bit,
right,
over and over. The chances are very, very small. And then for it to be a specific, Lyme carditis, which is like under the, carry the 2 Lyme disease, remainder
Right.
like, man, it's just so rare, but you just.
And I don't even know the percentage.
You never know.
But it was somewhere in like the 0.1 of that. And again, I don't know. You'd have to like do your research on it, but and the tick wasn't even on me more than like an hour or 2. And usually it takes 24 hours of like having a tick on you for that to kick in. So
And then its head is like all the way in your skin, right?
this one was, maybe it was on there more than usual. So I was like, oh, this is a little harder to pull out. So it's probably like got in there. Just right on my leg. I was wearing shorts. So, it's easy just because I could look down and see it. Yeah, check for ticks. If you do get a tick bite, like just you can get tested. They'll do like a blood test, because had I got that, I could have taken medicine and avoided
Much
all
earlier.
this stuff. Yeah, because again, to that credit of that doctor at the Gorham urgent care, she knew what it was without having blood tests. Then they confirmed it in the hospital. They're like, yep, came back positive, which to me, I was like happy that they knew what it was.
Yep.
Because that was just like their best guess. And I'm like, well, I hope that's it, because that's treatable. If it's some other heart thing, I don't know.
And she just went with her gut.
Yep. Doctor
It's
in
amazing.
Maine, she was like, I've seen something like this before.
Oh,
I got
yeah.
a feeling.
Yep.
And
Man.
I'm just I keep saying it, and it's just true. I'm just happy to be alive. When people ask me how I'm doing, I'm like, I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy you're alive too, bro. Golly.
The show is back. It's episode 29. Just the Jordan shrug. The comeback.
And it's Dave's back wearing the 4-5, but he ain't here to play games with you. Let's go.
Let's go. nice reference.
I can't even remember who said that.
Jay-Z.
Okay, yeah. And man, this is just
It's a celebration.
This feels good. Yeah, it really is. And it feels good to break this all down here today and to get your experience with all this. And you've come out to the other side. You've seen the light at the end of the tunnel. It's only up from here for you. So, gosh, man, just...
we have a lot to... Dude, we got a lifetime of stuff to do. I was sitting there like...
I know.
In that bed thinking, I have a lot to do. I can't go out like this. I'm not ready. I got things to do.
Absolutely. Dude, I keep thinking I have ticks on me now. I'm freaking out.
You haven't been in any tall grass, right?
No,
Then
man.
you're good.
I just been... one of the weird things is since we started having our FaceTime chats while you were in the hospital,
Yeah.
and all this talk about ticks and all that stuff, dude, all I'm getting is recommended tick videos. So I saw this one video came up, not even 2 scrolls in.
Wow.
And this guy had this cluster of probably like 80 to 100 on the back of his neck.
Where are you for that to happen?
He must have just found a pool of ticks and hopped in.
I mean, yeah, just sleep in the
I
tall
don't know.
grass.
Yeah, I don't know, man. But maybe he was asleep or something, and they all just like, hey, let's all just, hop on this guy. And then they had to, one by one, take them all out. I'm just like, and then there's another video. This person had a cluster on their thigh.
Oh.
And I'm like, it was never just one. It always had to be a plethora, a jubilee of just ticks. And I'm just like...
And you just like keep watching. You're like, I can't look away. I have to see this.
Yeah, and I'm just like rubbing myself down, and I'm like checking, and... man, it's just... I hate them. I hate them more than anything, man.
Those little bastards almost took me out.
Yeah, but you know what? They didn't.
That's right. Man prevails.
Yep, absolutely.
I was thinking too, I'm like, man, I didn't even get to record like my video I want to play at like my funeral for people. Like there were so many things I didn't. I'm like, I'd like to do that.
Yeah.
I was thinking of that scene in Basketball where it gets like, all right, did everybody leave the room? Okay, great. Coop,
Okay,
remember that one night? It's like, oh God.
I just know that in your will, it's like all my gear and hard drives go to Jeff.
Yeah.
He's going to... And he's going to create some sort of like memorial piece for me, with all
pressure,
my
bro.
footage. Oh, gosh. I don't know if I could pull it off, dog.
Don't worry. It's like in the movie How High. I'll just like come haunt you and like help you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be like, no, not that shot. Nah, I look stupid in that one. Well, I was thinking
thankfully,
too, I'd be like, all right, whoever gets that stuff, I'll put like a drill with a drill bit. I'm like, all right, there's some stuff you can have and other stuff, just drill a hole in the hard drive and destroy it.
Done.
Just no questions. Just destroy it and then throw it in the recycling or wherever it goes.
That's fair. Yeah, no doubt. Gosh, man. I feel like outside of this, there's still so much to catch up on. And we're going to do that back right here next week.
Yep.
On Hangin' with Homie, episode 30, which you know what that means.
Q&A, dude, my favorite time. I came back just in time for Q&A. Imagine if this had been episode 30. Listen, Dave, we know you went through this whole thing, but we're going to have to do a Q&A first.
I know. Well, that's the thing is like, make sure, you listen to this one before the next one. Because, dude, you just spent an hour explaining those 2 weeks, like day for day, like beat for beat, bar for bar, man. Like, and it's just wild stuff. It really is remarkable. And I'm glad to have my best bud back. And I'm really looking forward to next week. So please get in your questions. You can do that on Instagram. Send me an audio message. Facebook, right? Dave also has a link where we can do that, and I'll blast that out on Twitter or X or whatever the hell
right on the
doing.
right on the Spotify.
Nowadays.
You can leave. It can be anonymous. You can leave your name, like whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's a cool. Dude, I like voice messages. I spread the gospel to everybody. I'm like, listen, send me a voice message. Sometimes text is it's not as personal.
Yeah, I mean, you can't hear the inflection. You don't know. Yeah, and I don't know.
Tone is lost. But yeah, anyway, Q&A. And you could ask me questions about everything I just explained if you want, or nothing about that. You could just come out of left field, whatever you want.
Whatever you want. And really glad to have you back, buddy. For Dave, I'm JR. This has been Hanging with Homie. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Tell a friend about this show, all right? And remember, most importantly, it's cool to be you. Peace.